Well, first of all, thanks a lot for calling back, and I appreciate your time today.
Problem.
And, it sounds like I'm about to sign off. Okay, see you later. No. But I'm ready to roll if you are. I got my recorder rolling.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay. Well, Jefferson, what got you into acting? And please include time markers like age, events, and inspirations.
Let's see. I was in my first play in high school, my senior year. Our high school was doing Grease, and I got I got together with some other ball players, and we all agreed it would be a manly thing to do because we would get girls. So we all locked arms, and I took to the girls aside. I really took to what was going on there. So later on that year, our high school did did an Agatha Christie murder mystery, and I signed on for that as well. So that's where I started with it. Didn't really do a whole lot in college. Always kind of had the inclination, we just never really got back into it. So, then wound up getting a job out of college, and did a little bit of modeling when I was at the University of Kentucky, but still nothing along the acting lines. But when I was engaged to my wife, she was going to, this was around 1988, we were engaged, we just got engaged, and she was going to an audition for a regional theater down around Nashville. And I was just her ride there, and I was in the waiting area, and the director comes out and says that the person who was supposed to read with some of the actresses had not shown. Would I mind filling in until he got there? Well, I filled in, just took the script, and kind of knew what to do with it. And the guy ended up never showing, but I also ended up getting cast in the show. So that went really well, and I was working in sales then, so I could kind of set a few of my own hours. So I stayed on with that regional company. There it was actually in Western Kentucky. I stayed with them for about 5 years. Did about a dozen productions with them, and so that's where so I was doing a lot of theater. I did some more regional theater around the state, closer to Nashville. And somebody with the company suggested, they said, this would have been around 1991. And Kelly and I were married at that time. I still had a full-time job. Somebody suggested that I get some headshots and go down to Nashville and see, because I had a good chance to probably get some commercial work. So I got some really bad headshots made and started going down for some auditions, mainly for commercials and commercial acting type things, nothing dramatic. And I did that for a year or two, and then I was going to a commercial for a department store down there. My agent in Nashville, she said, when you get done there, go over for this music video audition. I said, well, I hadn't really thought about that. I really want to do this job for the department store. She said, well, go on over there anyway. So I went over and auditioned for the music video, and it turned out to be a groundbreaking music video at the time, because it didn't feature the band. It was actually a music film, more like, and it wound up getting heavy airplay on all of the music video channels. And so I kind of got to have a little bit of reputation as this guy around Nashville. That's when country music was really booming at the time. So that kind of got me my feet on the ground. That I kept working professionally after that.
Cool.
That was a long answer.
Oh, I like long answers. So the more you talk, the better the story goes.
I did that. I was a working actor. I was doing a lot of commercial. I was still working in sales. I was working in and out of my job, and I was a working actor doing commercials. I auditioned for a lot of films. I didn't get cast in anything. So this is all through the '90s. I got cast in a pilot, a TV pilot that was based out of Los Angeles, but they were shooting on location in Alabama, and it was people from Joel Silver's company. And so I got cast in that pilot. I was the only non-LA member of the cast, and the pilot didn't get picked up. We shot shot in Alabama. We shot part of it out in L.A. But the pilot didn't get picked up, so I remained in sales. So it was about another 5 years before I got cast in my first feature film.
Mm-hmm.
And that turned out to be, that was where I got my SAG card, and my first feature film was with Lou Diamond Phillips and Andre Brower, and I was kind of the main character. I wasn't in the film as much of them, but I was the main character that everyone was looking for. So my character kind of set the tone for the story. So it was a really big part for me.
Nice.
Got to do my own fight scenes and whatnot. So it was a big deal. It was my first studio picture.
That was A Better Way to Die, right?
That was A Better Way to Die. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then right after that, right after I finished that, when I had some momentum going, I got cast as one of the leads in an ABC made-for-TV movie of the week. So that was my next job right after that. And then I started picking up some more independent films and doing a little bit more theater work after that as well. But I still had a full-time job, and I was working around it still, just so I could keep acting.
Cool. What was the name of that music video you starred in?
It was called Feed Jake.
Feed Jake. And who was the artist that sang it?
The artists were the Pirates of the Mississippi.
Okay.
It was, like I said, it was the country music boom of the '90s when videos were really big. Reba McEntire was really big. Garth Brooks, but it was the first time that a big time music video had been made and the band didn't even appear in it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. After that, I was around Nashville all the time. People would come up and talk to me, and I was really kind of wondering how much I loved the video, and I realized after a point they think I'm in the band. And we had a lot of fun with that one.
That's cool. This might sound like a dumb question, but what's the difference between theater and film as far as what you're doing, as far as acting on stage in a theater? How does that translate into film, and what are some of the major differences?
Theater's a lot big, other than your time commitments, and of course with theater there's no do-over. When you're on stage and you're in a performance, there's no such thing as cut, do it again. Theater, you're out there, and if you screw up, you got to live with it, and as far as that for the consistency. The other part is, theater for the most part, especially musical theater, which I've done as well, you've got to be big. There's nothing small. For logistic reasons that you had to vocalize and project for the audience. So, and someone in the 49th row needs to see everything that you got going on facially and vocally, as well as the person sitting in the second row. So you had to be just a little bit bigger than yourself. Even in intimate theater, you got to be a little bit big. Doing work for the camera is very intimate because you work with close-ups. You're working with your voice being mic'd, so you don't have to project in a way that makes it unnatural. So it's a lot more of an intimate type dealing.
I hear that this year marks the 20th anniversary since A Better Way to Die. Tell us about that film, what you learned from the experience, and what highlights do you recall from that film?
My mind had been blown. It was my first. I had done commercials and things, commercials for Opryland and stuff, and like I said, regional theater plays and things. So everything was pretty scaled down. But here I was, my first film. I'd auditioned for films for almost 10 years, and I started thinking, well, it's not going to happen. But I auditioned for this film, and they said, well, this role that you're auditioning for, it's an FBI agent and stuff. So, and there is some fight work that goes on. Are you comfortable with that? I said, yeah. So he said, would you mind? I did my lines a couple of times. I was like on my third audition. So a guy stepped from behind the camera, and they said, well, would you mind just kind of shuffling around a little bit with him, just kind of see how you move? So they said, yeah. So the guy who was conducting the audition, he's going to grab your arm now, get out of it. And the guy was a little bit taller than I was, and we were about the same weight and everything, same build. So the guy grabbed my arm. Well, just instinctively, I said, instinctively, I pulled away from it to grab my arm, and I threw a spin kick, and I meant to miss him, but I caught him right in the side of And I was saying, well, I guess I'm done. I said, I'm really sorry. I said, I tried to pull it, and it turned out the guy I was kicking was the director and the writer, and he was so impressed just by my instincts to keep it real that I got the part. So I remember that part of the audition. But then, like sitting in the first time you sit in your trailer that's got your name on the door, that's really a rush. And, the day that Lou came to set, that was a memorable day because I had been, when I wasn't in the business, this is when I was still in Lexington, I was in sales. I saw La Bamba at the theater. It just became a Lou Diamond Phillips fan right off the bat. And then after that, I saw, in the theater, I saw Stand and Deliver. I saw Young Guns. I just thought this guy had it. So the day he comes to set, and I didn't notice him get out of his car, and I was kind of looking out of the corner of my eye, trying to keep cool. And he makes a beeline over to me and sticks his hand out and says, "You must be Jefferson. I'm Lou." And just to hear those words from somebody you considered a hero up to that point was such a rush. And then, after that, we're doing scenes together. So that was a memorable part of it. It's like, okay, when your hero's standing right next to you and introduces himself to you like he needs to, that was a memorable part of that. And I can't believe it's already been 20 years.
Yeah, really, time flies.
Yeah.
They say good actors act with their eyes. How do you do that, and how do you get good at that?
It's all about focus, and that's one of the things I tell actors, especially new actors, that I feel like need a little bit of coaching. I said it's all in the eyes. I mean, you can tell on television when you can tell a bad extra on television because their eyes are not focused on what the scene is about. And I tell somebody that no matter where you are in the scene, whether you're getting the close up or you're the guy back by the park bench, if your eyes aren't focused where your character's supposed to be, you're going to lose them. And that's something I've always maintained. But I've never had any trouble with that, with distractions or anything like that. I think I become so immersed in what I'm doing and in the scene that I really do leave myself. So my eyes are focused because all of me is focused. My brain is focused. My heart is focused. I'm breathing with that character. So that's not even technique. That's just a part of becoming instead of acting for me.
Fascinating. I appreciate this insight you're sharing.
Yeah.
What do you think is the connection between? What's the connection between sales and acting, and how do you think your experience with sales?
Between sales and acting.
You think it helped in any way?
Excuse me?
You think sales helped you in any way?
No, it really didn't. No, nothing. What prepared me for acting is sales was a job, and I thought that was the best I was ever going to do. I thought that was the most I was ever going to be as a good salesman who made a lot of money. And acting, I think acting for me started because I was a fat kid who didn't have a lot of friends and preferred, to stay in the house. Had skin as white as Kleenex. Didn't have a lot of friends. I was painfully shy, and so really, I think it was my imagination. I think that's where my imagination was really born. I was the original, and still am the original Walter Mitty character, because I would imagine things that I would do if I had more confidence, or if I wasn't overweight, or if I had a lot of friends. And I think that really transpired to being able to get the character so quick that my imagination puts me there instantly. Because I would imagine adventures for myself and whatnot, and and being thin and having friends, those were like the costumes that I would wear. So I really think that's where it started. Sales was a job, just plain and simple a job.
Nice.
I wasn't great at it.
You weren't?
Not great, no. The last job I had, I was a sales rep for the Kinko's Corporation, and I turned out the last year I was there, I was the #1 salesman in the world. And they said, well, you're going to get to speak at the conference. I forget what the conference was, Orlando or something. And they said, they're going to want you to explain your sales technique. I said, well, I don't really have a technique. They said, what do you do? I said, I'm just nice to people. And that's how you've been successful. And I said, well, that and the grace of God. And I'm like, these won't make a good speech, will they? And he pretty much said, no, those will make a good speech. And I wound up quitting before the sales conference ever came up. So I heard that the second place guy put on a much better show than I would have.
It probably would have made a good speech.
Yeah, I don't know, yeah. But anyway.
So I like the way your conversations with the characters in the Stranger series and the Perfect Stranger, they often turn a question that someone has directed at Jesus back to the person asking the question. How have you researched both the questions people ask of God and the answers, and where do you go for help?
Well, the Stranger, again, I don't have a good answer. The Stranger movies were all based on novels, so that really goes to David Gregory that wrote them. I did the screenplays on those, which were pretty much, almost verbatim adaptation of the dialogue in the novels, with just a few tweaks here and there. So really, all that credit goes to him. But I think they were all pretty viable, and that's really what first drew me to those books in doing the first screenplay. Just that David had really nailed, the most pertinent questions, and how they went back and how they were biblical, because Jesus usually answered a question with another question.
Yeah, he did do a good job.
I really had to give him that credit, because I really had very little input into the actual, dialogue and what he chose to do. But then, of course, in the novels, he went a little bit deeper on some other things as far as, some theology and stuff. So I guess we kind of pulled the most humanistic and populist questions from his books.
Yeah. My next question is a little bit long-winded, so if you can bear with me.
Oh gosh, I've been long-winded, so I guess let me put the coffee on for tomorrow morning. Go whenever you're ready.
All right, it's my turn, Jefferson. Okay.
Yeah.
When playing a role like Jesus, I wonder what kind of pressure or challenges that presents, especially in light of the fact that, like in The Perfect Stranger and other short features where Jesus is hanging out with everyday people and answering their important questions about the existence of God or doubts that keep them from the faith. But for example, it's one thing for me to present or make a documentary where I present my ideas and my opinions and answers to some of these common yet all-important questions, but it's quite another thing to present these answers as coming directly from God himself in a dramatic narrative. So going back to the question is, what kind of challenge does that present?
I think I gave myself, before we did the first Perfect Stranger movie, I took part in a Broadway scale passion play here in Louisville. I did that for 5 years before we did the Perfect Stranger movie. And it was a play here in town that in Louisville that had been in existence, I think, for almost 15 years. And I took it over from a guy that had done it for 5 or 6 years, and I had seen how he did it. So when I came on board and took over the role of Jesus, like I said, it was a full passion play with the lifetime and the crucifixion is shown, and the resurrection, with the full flying machine, the whole 9 yards. The director and I, because it was a new director, because the other director had been there like 20 years, so it was a new Jesus, new director the year that I took it over. And I found myself throwing more nuances in that people really responded to. Not that I was just trying to do it different than the last guy did, but I really wanted to throw my own thing into it. And part of what I would do was when I was making dialogue with people just during the big numbers and whatnot, I made sure that I would really focus on people. That would really, while they were talking, when I was talking to them, this is just talking when there's something else going on the other side of the stage. We call it stage talking. I would do little nuances, like looking at the person's face and asking them and really intently listening, and picking up little kids as I walked around. And I did a lot of laughing. And some of the feedback we got from the first year I did the show was they said, I never imagined Jesus laughing. And so it was just little things like that people responded to in that passion play. And about 60,000 people attended every year the performances of that show. So it got to be, people would come from all over the country. Some people, far away as Russia to see the show. So it was a big scale show. But I took pretty much what I learned about that people responded to in that. And I put that into the guy in the Armani suit in the restaurant. The guy with because I was in full costume in the Passion Play with the beard and the long brown hair and the brown contacts. So I look like a Hebrew. But in doing it, in a modernization with my own blonde hair and wearing an Armani suit, and I was clean cut. I kept the same nuances of how intently that he listened to the person next to him was the only person in the room, and how he found humor in things, and down to the part where he said he didn't like neckties. I think it was that part. So I didn't really feel any pressure to be holy with that. I felt more pressure to be someone of authority that was likable. So instead of pressure, it was more of a challenge, because I didn't want to be like the uncle that buys you beer. That everything's good. Everything's good. I'm your buddy. But at the same time, I didn't want to be the lightning bolt guy that's going to strike you dead. If you don't come to church on Wednesday night. So I think it was more of a challenge than pressure to be that human and that compassionate, but at the same time being the universal authority. So I really see it that way. Mm-hmm. And of course, we didn't get into any places. I mean, there was a little bit on drinking wine. We got a little flack from that in a couple of areas, but overall, there was really nothing objectionable about it. And it didn't pull any punches either. So I that part, we really stayed true to the script that we didn't pull any punches. This Jesus character said, he said Hinduism is wrong. It's not. It's incorrect. He said that what Islam says. He says it's incorrect. So that was just the beginning of when political correctness, when saying something like that was the most intolerant thing you could say. But it was true to the Jesus of the Bible, who just made no bones about who he is. So that part was challenging as well, because we kind of went back and forth. My co-director and I went back and forth. So we're gonna leave this in here, and we said, let's stick with it.
Good deal. So I'm curious what sort of challenges playing the role of Jesus brings when people recognize you on the street. I've got a funny story about some drawings my dad made where I was the long-haired model for Jesus.
I don't know if anybody, when people recognize me, I'm not sure if they really tie the Jesus thing in. I don't hear a whole lot of that. Mm-hmm. People do recognize me, but I haven't had any confrontations or anything like that. It's always been, we've seen you in the movie, so I'm usually not sure which one they're referring to. So I really haven't had a whole lot where people brought that down with me. I read a lot of things in reviews and things like that about people that appreciated the way that I portrayed them in a passionate way, and not so much people that see me in the street. I'm still really that shy kid. To be honest with you, I never grew out of that. So when people see me in places, I always try to be gracious, but I really don't. I don't promote any prolonged, conversations or anything like that, because I really feel like I have nothing to say to anybody, outside. So I used to say thank you for watching. I'm glad you appreciated the show and whatnot. But one thing we have heard in that form, and this is more like in reviews and emails that we've gotten from people who've seen our films, a lot of people, and we're always happy when somebody watched our films, but we're really happy when we hear from people that, for one reason or another have left the church, or people that were seeking and didn't get the answer that they wanted. And we've heard from people that say, if I had heard the gospel presented this way, I never would have left the church, or I never would have fought with my mother over it. If I'd had it presented to me the way you guys did. So we take that as a compliment. We take great responsibility in that. So that's why we wanted to make sure that we didn't get outside, even though we were creating a fictional character of sorts, that we didn't want to get outside of the gospel and take too much dramatic license with anything, because we did have a responsibility. At the end of the day, we were presenting the gospel.
Right. Well, tell me about your first documentary, National Anthem Girl. What's it about? Where did the inspiration come from? And what do you hope to accomplish with it?
When I was, in 2014, I was watching Fox News one morning, and we always wanted to do a documentary. I've always been interested. I love documentaries. It's one of my favorite things. It has been for a long time. So in 2014, it must have been maybe about January, February, I was watching Fox News, and there was a girl that was on the couch talking to the host, and I recognized her as this actress that I'd seen in an episode of 24, and I thought she was really unique looking, and I thought she was a good actress. I was like, well, what is she doing on Fox News? So I turned it up and listened to what she was doing on there, and it turns out it was not her. It's just someone who looked a lot like her. So that got me to turn the sound up and listening, and it turned out it was this girl from Long Island that was on a journey to be the first person to sing the national anthem in all 50 states. No one had ever done that before. And this is 2014. This is before the Colin Kaepernick controversy started. So this young lady, I think she was on state number 23 at that time, and she was on Fox News to just kind of promote what she was doing. And she had made a decision to take on this journey, and she was trying to finish in time for the 200th anniversary, which was August of that year of the national anthem. It was about to turn 200, which hardly anybody knew at that time. And along the way of her journey, she was promoting patriotism and gratitude for our troops, and doing a lot of things for the troops in each state that she went to. But as her story turned out, and so after seeing her that time on the news and stuff, she put a map up of all the states she had not yet visited and didn't have venues, because she was doing all this self-funded and all of her own booking. So I noticed that one of the states she had not been to was Kentucky, and she had put a website on there. So I got on her website and emailed her and said, hey, I noticed you haven't been to Kentucky. I said, we're friends with, we know the owners of the local AAA team here. If you need a venue, we can give you some contacts there. And I said, also, we own a production company. We have HD cameras. If you'd like to for us to come give you some coverage, we'd be happy to. So she responded and said, yes, I need the venue and stuff. She said, yes, that would be great, because she said, I have to film everything on my iPhone because I'm all by myself. So when she came to Louisville, it was July of 2014. So she came to Louisville. We picked her up at the airport, and we kind of had the cameras rolling from the time that she got off the plane, the whole time she was here, while she was making media appearances and we all really hit it off. And we wound up finishing with her, giving her support like that through the end of her journey. We were in state number 50 with her when she completed the last state, which was down in Nashville for a Titans game. So she had a great story. She was from Long Island. She sang in college. She loved singing the national anthem. She had a real passion for it. She went out to L.A. to become a rock star and spent all her money on an album that went nowhere, and she was stuck in LA, and she was afraid to tell her family that she had bombed out, and so she didn't even have money to move back. So she said she spent a long time feeling sorry for herself, and one day she just said, what can I do to help somebody? She said, I want to help somebody with what I have. I've got my voice. What can I do? So that's when she made a decision. She said, I'm going to, what if I could sing the national anthem, which I've already loved doing? What if I can do something to promote that song and gratitude for the people that give it meaning, our troops? And she said, I just said about that journey, and she said, when I was about 13 states into it, I realized nobody ever sung it in all 50 states, and that would be a great event. And then she realized that in 2014 it was going to that the national anthem was going to turn 200 years old, and so she made that her goal to finish by the anniversary of the Star Spangled Banner's writing. So after she completed her journey, she started doing some speaking in schools and whatnot, and conferences and things, public speaking, singing the national anthem in places. And I got in touch with her and said, Janine, has anybody done anything with your story? And she said, no, I thought about writing a book, but I kind of got busy with some other things. So I said, really people need to know what you did, because people don't do something like that every day anymore. Our accomplishments are all built into our iPhones these days. People just don't do things like that by and large. So I said, would you give me a shot at adapting your story into a documentary? So she said, yeah, and we went back. We went through all of her interviews, all the newspaper articles. We shot some new stuff. We pulled footage from every place we could, and we took her story from beginning to end of how her experiences in each state, and how it changed her from the inside. Because at first it was all about her, and by the time she got done, it was so much about everybody that wasn't her. It was about something that was bigger than her. So we just thought that was a great story to tell.
Yeah, it is a great story. Thanks. So I've kept you on the phone for 30 minutes now, and I want to be respectful of your time. I've got several more questions.
On the phone for 30 minutes.
But I got several more questions and ready to keep going if you are. I just wanted to give you the opportunity
I'm
to...
fine. I tell you, I've turned the sound down. The cups are fine. I've got the sound down, so if I yell, that means somebody dropped a fly ball or something, but otherwise, you've got my attention.
I understand. Well, tell us about the true crime screenplay you're working on. How personal is this civil rights event that happened in Louisville over 50 years ago? And
I haven't made a big splash about that, and I really don't want to say too much about that, if that's okay, because
Sure.
I have not made any public contacts or anything about that. I can tell you off the record stuff.
You want to talk about what bothers you about racism, maybe?
What bothers me about racism is what bothers everybody about racism. Mm-hmm. And it's something I have a hard time relating to, because I grew up with, black friend, my best friend, the best man at my wedding is black. We always screw up, with the differences in our families and our cultures, and it was just a part of life. It was never anything like that. So when I see, racism on the news, things like that, it's almost like a little bit of a foreign language to me, and I really don't understand it. I think a lot of it's politically motivated, like everything else today.
You're probably right.
And I think it's a lot of it is based on somebody wanting power, and it has little regard for the people that actually live their lives in this country.
Yeah.
I think racism is a big business.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah, but I do. I think people get hurt by it, and I think people profit from it.
Yeah. Well, I come from a background of covering the Christian music industry, and for a long time, many Christian musicians have complained about a lack of respect or even the narrow confines that the definition of, quote, Christian artist brings to their art. How do you feel about acting and people calling you a Christian actor or Christian filmmaker? Why?
Same thing. I think, and I guess it is that limited. I think because if you look at our films, we don't believe in ham-fisted religiosity. We present ideas and we promote conversation. We don't wrap things up in a nice bow. And like I said, we pretty show it. We've gone to great lengths in some of our stories to purposely show the downside of being a person with a strong faith, and how disappointing it can be and how unfair it can be sometimes. And I think if you label yourself, and I thought this from day one, if you call yourself, Christian film company, Christian films, I think automatically you're losing half your audience.
Yeah.
And I know that from a fact from a lot of people that said, hey, I stumbled onto your movie by accident and ended up watching the whole thing. I pulled my semi off on the side of the road and was watching. I thought it was something else. They said I watched the whole thing, and I saw things I've never seen before. I heard things told me. And if they had been there at the beginning of the movie and someone said, now presenting a good Christian film, they would have turned it off right there.
Right.
So I think those labels and like like our movie about cancer, we were getting. There's one website that just loves to dog us, and they were dogging us, because they didn't want to do Christian films. And our cancer movie, one message. They were dogging it, and I said, "What makes you call this a Christian film? Just because Jefferson Moore and Kelly Worthington did it? Because there was no, it was not an evangelical film at all. None of it." And I think it's the labeling. I think labels are confining, and labels put up barriers to people that might enjoy our stories. They just don't want to have anything to do with something. A good example is, in my opinion, one of the greatest Christian television shows of all time was the Andy Griffith Show. But nobody said, "Here's the Christian show, the Andy Griffith Show." People said, "Here's the Andy Griffith Show," and the characters all lived, a life that was respectful of followers of Jesus Christ, and that's what we try to do with our films. We've tried to make the Andy Griffith Show, as opposed to, hey, we're making Christian films and for Christians, about Christians, and it's like it's given a lot of times it gives Jesus a bad name.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why we want to make independent film. A good thing. I said said in an interview, nobody ever said Tony Dungy coached Christian football. He coached football, and he was a strong Christian. Everyone wants him to speak. Everybody respects him. But nobody ever says he coaches Christian football. He coaches football, and he's a coach who's a Christian. And and it's that type of thing. So there's no barriers around Tony Dungy. But so I don't want to have those barriers around myself as an actor, or as our film company. We're an independent film company that makes movies according to the beliefs of its owners.
Yeah.
Which is kind of long-winded, but and frankly, there's some films that proudly say we're Christian films that I really don't want to be associated with. Just for that reason, it's like, no, we don't think that. We don't believe in getting the message out that way. So we'd really rather not be in that club if it's all the same to you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard that before. It's funny.
Yeah.
I've got a vision for a company and a business plan I've never really acted on, but it's a football magazine with a faith perspective called First and Goal. And my explanation is just that. It's a football magazine with a faith perspective, because Christians don't tackle more softly and gently like Jesus. The game of football is the way it is.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as Christian football.
Well, I can go into I'm going to go into Kelly's office here, because she's got something. I know she didn't make this up, but she keeps it up on her whiteboard. And it says, the Christian shoemaker does his Christian duty not by putting little crosses on the shoes, but by making good shoes.
Yeah, amen.
And that's just her. And that's how we approach. We're making good films that show you can have a good comedy between two people, and they don't have to hop into bed together. They don't have to call each other everything that begins with an F, for it to be a good film. But it's still a good film, and that's part of what I want to do. Some of our films are very evangelical. The Stranger films are very evangelical, even though they're still not ham-fisted. But some of ours are just comedies, and some of ours are just a tragedy about somebody with a debilitating disease. Whereas other people would think, okay, we need to get a cross in here somewhere. We need to have a congregation. Somebody's got to be wearing a collar. Mark Smeeby, who's a good friend of ours, he says, that's called godding it up.
Yeah.
He said, I've written some songs, and somebody's told me, you need to god it up a little bit. And I said, if we've ever been told to god it up, we just say, okay, we'll just not participate.
Yeah, it reminds me of the phrase JPM, Jesus per minute.
Yeah, it really is, yeah. Now, we did that. We did it one time, and it was very early on when we really thought we had no say. And one of the people paying our big license, a network had commissioned a mini serial that we did. We got 4 things right. We had one episode where a person just kind of walked off at the end, and you thought, well, she's probably going to turn her life around now because of the conversation she has had. And they insisted we shoot them sitting in a church or in a Sunday school class, and we really gritted our teeth, and we shot an epilogue, just a 3-minute scene of them getting on the phone and telling somebody that they were going to have to miss
Yeah.
we're never going to do it again. Because we got that bad taste in our mouth, and it says, okay, we just feel like we just really lowered our standards by doing that.
Yeah.
And then when we produced the DVD of the series, we cut that part back out again.
Yeah. I always like the idea. Go ahead. I always like the idea of treating my audience like they have intelligence or they have discernment, you know. And
yeah, and we do that too. And like I said, we're not as nice way to say this. Some of the most popular churchy movies at the box office have done the opposite of that. They have done ham-fisted, unbelievable religiosity, but they've done $33 million at the box office.
Mm-hmm.
And we've never done that much, but I feel better about our story. I'd love to have $33 million. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But and there's been movies that did better with really great acting and top line talent and better writing that did not do well at all.
Yeah,
one that comes to mind is a movie called The Song, which should have done so much more than it did and gotten better distribution. It was a very honest portrayal. It was well done. It didn't have really big names in it,
mm-hmm.
but it was so well written and it was so biblically sound. But it did it in a very realistic way. But it was a blip on the screen.
Yeah.
In the meanwhile, other movies that just have this stilted dialogue and it's unrealistic, these unrealistic situations, they do $33 million at the box office. So.
Well, I want to hear some more of what might be written on Kelly's whiteboard. If there's anything else, if you're still in the office, anything else on that whiteboard you want to share?
Well, her office is right next to mine, and I had to step over Butkus to my black lab to get there. To whom much is given, much is required. God's love is for everyone because everyone is someone to God. If we deal with what we have to deal with every day with the Holy Spirit, if we deal with what we have to deal with every day with the Holy Spirit, I will be all you need, but you have to lean.
I like it.
And everything else looks like work for me, so I won't get into that. Yeah, that's the high points there.
Cool.
She has the work written inside, yeah.
So I assume Kelly's your wife.
Yeah.
What's it like having a business and maybe a ministry with your spouse and life partner? What are the challenges and blessings that are unique to that situation? And tell us about her role.
We never got off the first date, so this has really been a gas for us because we still we never had kids, and we really like each other. So working together was just a natural thing because we're always together anyway, and so it's just an extension of us. So it's been a real blessing. We got to do it. This is what we both love. Kelly comes from a theater background as well, and musical background. So we're making art and getting to hang out to do it without having to leave and go to a 9-to-5 job. We had a few years where we had to do that. So I can't think of anything better, really. Now, than getting to hang out with your best friend all day. And it's nice, too, because she's here and she's she's who I bounce the ideas off of and vice versa. So it's nice that you don't have to pick the phone up to do that. You don't have to schedule a meeting to do that. You just pretty much walk in the other room or wake the other person up or something along those lines. So yeah, we met in college, and we're coming up on our 30th anniversary in October. So we've been at it a while.
Congratulations.
That's so cool.
Yeah, congratulations to her. Yeah. I told her the warranty's about to run out, so she better. But yeah, it's been great creatively, like I said, because it's made it not be work. It's more like just like our life than it is our work and our job and anything like that. And some of the best friends we've had are the people that we've hired as crew and actors. So it's kind of been nice and really created more of a family atmosphere for all of us.
Cool. Tell us about the song you wrote, Still Got Chicago.
I've written music music on several of our films, usually just to try to get out of paying royalty rights when I just need some bumper music or something here. I know you knew about that movie or about that song. I've been Chicago's kind of an adopted hometown for me, and so something Chicago is included in every film we've made. Two things are in every film we've made: the name Kelly and some reference to Chicago. That's like our two trademarks that are in all of our films and TV shows. So I was when we were doing Clancy Once Again, our Clancy sequel. I needed to have some music coming over the radio, and I really didn't want to use instrumental. I wanted something with vocals, but I really didn't want to pay a royalty for something like that. So I said, well, I'll just write something, and I'll do the vocals on it. And it was, the character that I was playing was, it's stated in the script that he's a fan of Jim Croce. So I said, I'm going to write something and sing something in that singer-songwriter, type genre and stuff, without a lot of percussion, usually just a guitar, maybe one other instrument. So I did a cut here, and we recorded it here at our studios. And it's coming through the radio, so it's really muffled. It's got a radio sound on it, and you just hear a little bit before the dialogue starts. But then, after a while, we both said that's a really good song and stuff. And so we was like, gosh, we should really just get some kind of a release on it. So I wanted to do it I wanted a female vocalist to do it. So we recut it in the studio. So I've got a lot of music, and I'm starting to pull some stuff back. I've got just about everything I've written, produced in a studio. So we've got all these fragments and stuff like that. So I'm really just kind of wanting to put my music out there in whatever application, maybe in some other people's films and whatnot. The song is really a tribute to Chicago. It's told through the eyes of a jilted lover, but it's really almost like a "We Didn't Start the Fire," but it's a love letter for Chicago. And so we're gonna kind of put it on social media platforms and Spotify and a few other things, and see how people respond to it.
Nice. You've made music videos. How do the visuals in a video go along with the music, and what excites you about music and music videos in particular?
I guess because I was, one of the first people in the MTV generation and stuff. I don't think I went to class. The week that MTV started, I don't think I went to class that whole week. I just sat in the fraternity house and stared at it. I was just so amazed by it. And I guess they're always like a short film because, they're 3 minutes long and you have to get your points across. And I just love what you can do with it because, I always just I liked seeing music through my eyes and stuff, and just getting a story with everything. Because I was always fascinated behind the story. What's the singer saying? What's the story about? Who's jilted who's excited about this? Who's feeling good? And the music video has always provided that for us. So it's just naturally. Before I wanted to make long films, I wanted to make short films, which were music videos. So, I just love the concept. So whenever I hear a video song, just my mind goes to, okay, this would be good, this would be good, this would be good stuff. And I've sent a lot of ideas to different artists and stuff. Like, well, if you ever do a video, this would be a good treatment for it. So my mind is just wired to work that way. I think it's from being born in the MTV, generation, from living through the beginning of the MTV generation.
Right.
Back when MTV actually showed music videos.
Yep, back in the day.
Back a long time ago.
Yeah. One thing my wife Jennifer pointed out, in almost every movie it seems, there's like this eagle or a bird that goes, caw! At some poignant scene. Is that a trademark or some sort of thing that filmmakers like to do? Have you noticed that?
No, I really haven't noticed it. There's a sound effect on our opening logo. There's a sound effect on it. There's a bird sound effect. Man, that could be what she's referring to.
Well, just like every movie, almost across the board, it seems like we've noticed it lately, where it's like there's some scene. I was just curious. I thought I'd throw it out there since I had a filmmaker on the phone.
Oh, no, I really have not.
Keep your ears open. See if you notice it.
Oh, so it looks like I was listening for the Wilhelm scream, but I haven't been listening for bird calls.
Yeah, it's so strange.
I'll make a note.
Do you ever feel like you're being persecuted for being a Christian?
More for being a non-liberal. And I don't mean persecuted to where, nobody's egging my... I don't think it's as much as a Christian as it is a non-liberal.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if they're putting us all in one big bucket now, the conservatives and Christians. Like, cause we're really very much, we're very close to the arts community, and nobody respects anybody else's opinions because people will just say things without any regard for what somebody else feels about something. Everybody just throws it out there. And, Kentucky's a very conservative state, but Louisville is the largest city, is a very liberal city. And so, we're usually outnumbered in a lot of situations. And as they persecuted, I'm saying, like, everyone will speak their mind out loud without any filtering for who might actually be in the room.
Right.
But I've come to, that's when you get judged by how you respond to things, and who it is that you follow is how you come back or don't come back, which we usually just don't come back.
Right.
We don't have a comeback. I don't mean we physically leave the room, but we usually just let things roll off our back and offer zero rebuttal.
Yeah. Choose not to be offended. That reminds me a lot of Austin, Texas.
They know what they're doing. A lot of times things will be said to get a bite. But at the same time, and we have noticed this, and it stuck out in my mind one time because someone with Sherwood had made this statement when they had made one of their movies, and they said they don't hire anybody that's not a Christian. That they do, for crew and actors, that is a litmus test. Now, I'm not sure if they still do that or not.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't follow Sherwood, but I do remember one of the Kendricks making that statement that they wanted to make sure someone was, a Christian, a believer before they were hired or cast in one of their movies. Well, we've never had that litmus test. So I know we have had gay cast members and unchurched people, and that have worked for us multiple times, and I think if they were offended by what we were saying, they would never want to work for us again. But they always enjoy working for us and look forward to the next time, and they know what kind of subject matter they're dealing with, especially on some of these more evangelical films. So I like to think that that's more Jesus-like, because Jesus was with the prostitutes and the drunkards and the heroin addicts. That's who he hung out with. He didn't put up a sign that said you must be Christian or this tall to get on this ride.
Right.
So that's one thing that we try to stay true to how he dealt with people. That we've never had that litmus test. And we've had cast white prayers and things like that, but we don't make a big deal. It's like, well, if you're godless and you don't have to participate, we just go at it, and nobody feels uncomfortable or uncomfortable one way or the other. So that means we're dealing with people with different opinions of us, and they don't mind us in that regard.
Yeah.
I think you've got a better chance to influence somebody than when you tell them they're going to hell because of who they're sleeping with. So.
Good point. So, do you think Robbie Gould is going to actually go back to the Bears?
I don't know. I think San Francisco, they keep doing different things. He said he wants a trade, but they haven't released him fully yet. And the Bears drafted a kicker, and way down, and then they just traded for one. So they've got three able-bodied kickers right there.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you return to a team, you're never as good, because I've had Richard Dent came back, and for sentimental reasons, and he was never as good. Wound up getting cut, which was more embarrassing.
Right.
And a few other players have come back, especially with that's happened to the Cubs a lot. So I think Gold would come back because it's kind of like he was a fan favorite. But there's chances if he came back, it would be he's been good, but I think he's on borrowed time right now because he has kicked a lot. He's put a lot on that leg over the years.
Yeah. So I've seen the schedule.
It'll be nice, but it might be a big build up for a disappointment if he did come back.
Yeah. It's not easy to kick outdoors at Soldier Field, I'm sure, in December.
Oh, it's horrible. I mean, just ask Cody Parkey. He was. Yeah, he's a testament to it.
Yep. So I've seen the schedule, and I know that your Bears are playing my Cowboys this year. And so, how do you think the Bears can do? And if they happen to meet again in the playoffs, who's going to win, and why?
Oh, the defense is looking really good. I think they're pretty loaded up, and Green Bay's going to have an off year. Nobody's picking the Bears to do anything, but I think they're primed to really make a move in the NFC, because I think the NFC is wide open once again, because you don't have the powerhouses. I don't know about Dallas. I don't know. They didn't finish so great last year. They're kind of starting to look like the Tony Romo Cowboys that have a lot of potential through the season, but then when they get to playoffs, it seems like they start falling apart right before.
Yep.
I think it's gonna be an interesting year.
Yeah, me too.
All eyes are still on Brady, but Aaron Rodgers has got a new coach, and he doesn't have the guns around him. So I think the NFC Central, I think the Bears are going to dominate.
Yeah, you got a good point there.
NFC East, not so sure. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I cut my cable for the first time in my adult life. I don't have cable TV, so I got to figure out how I'm going to watch football this fall. But
oh wow,
I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I'll tell you what we did. We were doing NFL ticket. We've done NFL tickets since they actually began. We used to have the giant satellite dish in our yard, and it just kept getting more and more expensive. And we only watch one game basically. We watch who the Bears are playing. That's we're basically paying all those fees for one game.
Exactly.
And they're on TV so much, and and plus they've been playing bad and terrible. I've been losing season every since. I said, I'm not paying for this anymore. I'm not going to participate anymore. So we've got a BW3's not real far from us. So we said, okay, when the Bears are on TV, we'll just get in the car and go to BW3's. So we wound up, we've been watching with all these Bears fans we didn't even know existed. So we kind of started looking forward to it. So right now we're not going back. We get the Cubs, we get all the Cubs games still, and all the Blackhawks games. But as far as the Bears, we get in the car and drive down and we're having a lot more fun. It's kind of turned into a social thing for us. So that's
cool.
How we're doing it.
Well, my wife's been listening in, and I think I'm out of questions. So if Jen has any questions, or
hard, gosh,
I know,
poor woman.
Yeah,
I've enjoyed it, especially when you're talking about Kelly.
Kelly, she had to go out on the chute. We had to climb a silo today, so.
Wow.
So yeah, we both kind of came in a little tired. So I think she's probably flopped someplace, and I'm rambling like a tired person.
My dad grew up in the 50s on a farm in Kansas, and they built a parachute in a bucket, and they put a cat in the bucket and climbed up the silo. They were going to experiment, but the cat started swatting out the parachute strings on the way down and just took a dive of about 30 feet and hit the ground running and stayed mad for about a week.
Oh, wow. Back in the good old days, you could experiment with cats, right?
Yeah.
So what do you guys do in Austin?
Well, I work for the state of Texas now doing graphic design for the Department of Licensing and Regulation. And before the previous 5 years, I did the same thing for the Department of Agriculture. But before that, for 28 years, I ran a Christian music magazine. And my wife has worked for a hospital for a number of years, and she just is transitioning to something new we don't know yet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah. She's an amazing artist, so I would love to get in a situation like you and Kelly have where we're working on something together. That'd be cool, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, I've enjoyed meeting you guys.
Likewise. Really appreciate your time, and I'll email you guys a link when I get this up.
Yeah, and you've got all of our emails and everything, so if you need to send us anything release-wise or anything like that, it'll get to me eventually.
Okay, excellent. Well, I wish you the best, and I praise God for you, and pray God's blessings upon your future, too.
Same to you guys, and I enjoyed our talk, so do let me know if there's anything else you need.
All right, we'll do. Likewise, if you think of anything you want me to know or add, and also if you hear that eagle or crow sound in a film, let me know.
I'll keep my ears open. I'll tell Kelly to do the same.
All right. Well, you take care, brother.
Okay, you guys have a good evening.
Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.